Hi everyone, this is Karak from ACG, and you may know me from my award-winning book, Nun Kneeling Party, A Story of Forbidden Love. And today I bring you the review for Batman Arkham Knight, the third in the game series by Rocksteady of the Batman games. Yes, they too pretend that Arkham Origins doesn't exist, even with all my fan mail directed to them addressed, "Dear Surly Bastards, Origin isn't that terrible." This will be as non-spoilery as I can possibly get, which means it will be edited for content and footage. And, of course, spoilage. Arkham Knight tells a tale of what happens a single year after Arkham City, when the Scarecrow minus Mrs. King decides to finally do what we all would have done the first time we got our bad guy powers and collected every single enemy Batman has put in a group and say, go. Assisted in his battle against Batman, Scarecrow is joined by the mysterious and oh so subtly named Arkham Knight, a mysterious figure in a game of mysterious figures. And here we go. Is Batman a return to form, offering gamers improvements where needed, like upgrades to the game engine, fighting engine, and storytelling? Or does it end up being nothing but a dark splotch of wasted blood, meat, and angsty, wasted expectations? The result of doing what Batman vs. Superman the movie is attempting to do, and that's having a battle so one-sided, in this case a game versus almost impossible to reach expectations, that despite the lofty goals, morals, and ideals held by the defeated, they are in the end squashed into a thick paste of failure. Let's do this. Graphics, as always, are up first. You know, regardless of the platform, Batman Arkham Knight looks incredible. Imagine an entire development staff sitting up late at night and thinking, how can we throw more stuff at this game and make it look even more awesomer, and someone butting in and saying it still needs to run well. And unlike Unity, where that person was relegated to dunk tank status, here, most of the people on the team high-fived and said, yeah, that actually makes sense. Rarely dropping a frame, the game unveils a world that reminds you a little of the past games, but offers the kind of complexity really never before seen in the titles prior. It's simply fantastic looking, with new animations in the fighting engine, reminding you that slamming your elbow into someone's face is an experience every single person needs to have at least once. Okay, probably more than once. Added here is the Batmobile Tank thingy. Imagine the cartoon Mask, where vehicles sort of transformed into other vehicles that are somewhat like it. And that's the Batmobile. It can transform from the Batmobile to the Batman Tank. It's a mixture of an Abrams battle tank made of adamantium that weighs like 15 pounds with the weapons more suitable to an army destroyer. Another improvement, at least to me, is the facial technology used here and the texture work for characters that's excellent, approaching and at times surpassing the depth of detail seen in the recent Sherlock Holmes game, which apparently was a dermatologist's nightmare. It's fantastic and adds another layer of sheen that exceeds that which was in City or Origins. And luckily too, because as Batman mulches an almost unlimited number of enemies in hand-to-hand combat, at times the pain on their faces is a sheer delight. Despite the fact that Batman is as scary here as he was in past games, and even more so. The animation here speaks to an almost unhealthy desire on the programmer's part to see how many ways they can twist and smash the human body and just barely leave the heart beating so Batman can continue to go around claiming he doesn't kill anybody. Also, at some point between Arkham Origins and this game, someone realized that sometimes smashing someone into the environment is also plain good times, and environments have become like third fists to Dark Crusader and an almost hilariously overpowered addition to the battle. Additionally, environmental effects abound throughout the game, barely impacting the frame rate and instead enveloping the game in layered atmospheric sheets of rain and sleet and smoke. Honestly, the game's just downright amazing looking, though on the PC, unfortunately, there was some stuttering. I noticed at many times it almost seemed like there was a micro stuttering, and I'm not using an SLI machine. Additionally, some reports came in that the PC version has some odd graphical performance issues, with some pretty big frame rate hits across both AMD and NVIDIA CPUs, so your mileage may vary until it gets patched. Lastly, the texture work and modeling in the game is a little bit amazing and a whole lot phenomenal, and if you thought the trailers looked good, you're probably in for one hell of a ride. Though there are, of course, as with most games, a couple low-resolution textures here and there, the overall improvement in the engine and look of the game is solidly in the wow factor throughout. As an overall rating, I would basically say fairly stellar, especially on the consoles, with the same overall increase on the PC, but with that platform's caveats of possibly much more detail than consoles and possibly mysteriously poor performance, depending on possibly nothing more than the phases of the moon. Sound, music, and voice.
She's working out of a penthouse in Chinatown. I swear that's all I know.
If you're lying, I'll break the other one.
The other what? Ah! like child's play. Gotham, this is your only warning.
Sound, as always, is up first, and it's simply excellent. From the various non-lethal Batman weapons to the smack of a bat across the face of a bad guy who made the unfortunate decision to fight a dude who is badass enough to wear a cape around town without worrying about it. Guns, crashes, smashes, breaking of bones, cracking of glass, laser fire, and ambient sounds are all mixed incredibly well and leave enough space around one another to inform the gamer rather than confuse them. This is honestly a fantastic example of good sound work. And next up, of course, is music. Someone somewhere probably said, hey, let's grab a couple thousand musicians and lock them in a room, threaten their lives, and record whatever comes out. In this case, the delivery is one of the moodiest and darkest scores I think I've ever heard in a Batman game. It's a deep, somber affair that adds a contextual layer of atmosphere over the game, regardless of whatever current bad guy Batman has above his head and is trying to dusty roads into the fucking earth like he's attempting to achieve the first case of human fracking. There is nothing really surprising here. But in the same fashion as a John Williams score, the music fits within the environment and the expectations, but always seems to excel at doing so. And of course, up next is one of my favorite categories, which is voice. John fucking Noble, people. John Noble. Walter from Fringe to some, the evil Leland Monroe from LA Noire to others, this is a guy that could act his way not only out of a paper bag, but make you believe it was a five-star hotel at the same time. His role as the Scarecrow is at first a shockingly numb affair that feels trite and listless, but as it continues, it straight up becomes Eerie Town. Actions not matching attitude resolves the Scarecrow into an almost clinical idealism of what he should be, resulting in by far the best Scarecrow ever produced by the fiction. Ever produced. Remember that. This is a performance that should be applauded, making a character that could be just nothing more than a simple construct of homicidal tendencies and a dude who spends too much time buying Halloween masks, and instead reproduces the eeriness of what it would be like if you invited Jeffrey Dahmer and the BTK killer over to dinner and then trusted them with your drug stash. It is pure excellence. As expected, the returning and surprise returning characters of the past games do an amazing job furthering the story, which itself is actually a bit cumbersome. Okay, I'm lying. It's actually pretty damn clumsy, to be honest, but we'll move on and I'll cover it later. Of course, now we come to gameplay. Let's just cover a few things first. The day-to-day traditions laid down in Batman Origins and Batman City haven't really changed much, and Batman still solves crime by trying to extract the relevant criminal data from bad guys' skulls via ESP readers in his knuckles, knees, and head. Beating, slamming, choking, intimidating, kicking, stunning, knocking out, and headlocking enemies as he goes Batman seems to have received significant upgrades. And many of those upgrades abound both within the game and between this title and the last Batman title. One of the best is the speed at which you can traverse the world in your Batcape, creating a world that just feels far slicker than past titles by a good amount as you're swooping and patrolling above Gotham. Additionally, power-ups to a good deal of past weapons and abilities means that Batman just feels more powerful than ever before. Now, in some ways, Arkham Knight doesn't really expand a lot past City and Origins gameplay, resulting in a game that's both an extension of those titles as well as an improvement engine for some of the cumbersomeness of those past titles. In some ways, it's like a third child in that way, where the parents tried their best with the earlier children, but the third ends up the best, raised in a loving environment. Who fucking cares? The game is just, for the most part, really good. 15 hours of pretending to be a suicidal, almost unkillable crime-fighting machine developed by Rockstar would almost have to be cursed to fail, wouldn't it? However, the inclusion of the Batmobile, or as I like to call it, the most lethal, non-lethal, somewhat killing device in the universe, does make the game feel differently than past titles, if only momentarily. Now you not only can traverse the world via your wingsuit, you can also explore the world taking out criminals by basically driving them the hell over. How they live through this is beyond me, but several hints and comments are made that they don't actually die, so that means we're made to believe that Batman's leaving a small city's worth of paralyzed, sucking through straws bad guys in his wake, but always sleeping well because, hey, he never killed anyone. I mean, shit, people slip on the stairs and die, but here, getting cruised over by the Dark Knight as an afterthought apparently is a somewhat pleasant affair. Luckily, the city of Gotham continues to be evacuated more times than a retirement home attendee's bladder, and with a far higher efficiency. That's awesome news, though, because the Batmobile simply does not care about the following things. walls, gravity, tensile strength of world environments, or corners. This thing smashes through shit like Juggernaut and X-Men trying to get the last Capri Sun juice pack. I mean, seriously, almost nothing stands in its way, and that's good because with the city empty and the Batmobile shredding up the environment cheddar cheese grater style, your enemies are also increased, both in number and efficiency, trying to run you down like drunk drivers in school zones or beat on you with assorted melee weapons that you can now pluck from their surprised hands and turn back onto them. Batter up. Sadly, the streets are apparently paved with the slippery morals of Oliver Queen from the Arrow and 3,000 gallons of Arkham Asylum prisoner juice, because for a car with tires the width of movie star egos, it has surprisingly little traction at almost all times. The kicker here is that the vehicles aren't just used for combat and taking out your hatred for walls, but they're also used in some platforming elements, and that's where Batman takes a serious dive in the later category of fun factor, which I'll get to in a moment. The honest truth is, Batman offers a good number of improvements and some additions to Arkham City and Origins, but as a sequel, in some ways, it doesn't stray as far as I would have liked. Luckily, for the most part, it's excellent, but sadly at times, it actually feels very, very safe. And lastly, for this section, we are going to cover a bit about the story. Yes, it is ham-fisted, and yes, many times it's clumsy as hell, but it's also a comic book story made into video game, and it's also a Batman story, neither of which resonates as building blocks for a resounding story, but usually more of a framework for theme, and that's what you have here, the theme of Batman, held aloft by excellent voice acting and almost stomp rock pacing. It's not great, it's just what it is, without any additional existential crisis for Batman to muddle through. Sadly, Scarecrow's excellence is not matched by the character that gave the game its name, and that reveal has all the foreshadowing of someone telling you the ending of a movie before you even decided what movie to buy tickets for. And as always, my favorite category, Fun Factorino. For the most part, the game is indeed a blast, and intelligently, it doesn't overstay its welcome and introduce an unbelievable number of collections, like all the bad guys waited to mess with Batman until they got a chance to skip through Gotham, leaving a bunch of shit all over the world on Easter morning. But it's when the game remembers that Batman is also Bruce Wayne, even if for the most part he's living inside of Batman like Quaid in Total Recall, that's when Arkham Knight shows its prowess. When the puzzle-solving detective moments of Batman Knight rear their head, the true genius of the game just presents itself with shockingly intelligent puzzles, resolving the one thing many of these games have failed in, allowing you to feel the duality of the combat against the larger world, where occasionally Batman needs to switch his cowl to a thinking cap, and those moments are pure brilliance, adding to a game that feels fully fleshed out without resorting to collectathons. It's incredibly textured as a game goes, and allows for moments of sedate thinking, coupled with, oh shit, I need to headbutt that dude right now, gameplay moments. Sadly, not all is perfect within Gotham. Particular sections of the vehicle, combat, and moments can be depressingly mundane, requiring a finite control of a vehicle that seems to have an infinite number of ways to say screw you whenever you want to get a handle on it. And that results in some clumsy controls and some not-so-fun moments. In fact, this is where Batman seems to take its only real tumble. For some odd reason, the Batmobile and Bat Tank just take up more time than they really should in the game. And though I never really hated those moments, the fact is, whenever they began, I really just wanted to get back to Batmaning the shit out of everything. The inclusion of team-ups, where Batman's friends show up for brief moments to help you beat down enemies in the game, are excellent but woefully short-lived, and they do nothing other than really remind you of their absence when they aren't running around with you. In fact, it makes me desire a co-op game far more than ever, and I sort of just wish they weren't there. But in the end, all joking aside, they're actually really cool. Lastly, the little things in the game are just where it shines. The last snarl of a bad guy before you break his back but don't kill him, the way of the world and how it flows below you as you patrol above it from on high in the silent flight mode of the Batcape, and even the way the world reacts to you actively engaging with it are all hallmarks of an excellent attention to detail. So in the end, I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, rent, or never talk about it again rating scale. Obviously, this is indeed a buy, but don't expect perfection. Expect a good game, a game that knows what it tries to add to what was offered in the prior titles and what came before it, and tries to improve upon it, and it mostly succeeds. A game that places story a bit lower in the category of things that matter, but it is indeed saved by excellently voiced dialogue, a wicked soundtrack that is easily worthy of a purchase in its own right, and enough refinements that ending this trilogy or quadology of awesomeness and darkness, whatever they want to call it, here and now won't leave anyone with a bad taste in their mouth. It could have done with some patching up here and there, but it's a damn solid title and one that's mostly deserving of the recognition that it's received. Well, that's pretty much it for this review. If you like the review, hit thumbs up. If you dislike the review, hit thumbs down. If you did like it, you know what, share it, put it on Twitter, tell your friends about it, whatever. If not, go out, enjoy the game, and as always, peace out.